let's say a guy says, she said, ask the man, what do you want for your birthday? And he says, listen, let's just watch a movie together, have some pizza, drink some liquor, I'm good. Have some sex, that's all I need for the night. And the woman thinks, let me get him a wallet.
He's like, no, I didn't ask for that.
Exactly. Like, it's so simple. He's telling you exactly what he wants. The words coming out of his mouth it's what he means. The problem is so many women have been conditioned to dealing with liars and manipulators, dealing with men who are playing games, that when they are with a good man who's being forthcoming and honest, they don't know how to take that. And also because women are they're in the details, all right? So they are going to see what you need. They're going to analyze and say, okay, I can get this for him. They're more thoughtful in their approach. They go deeper, which is why they become so frustrated with us, because we don't. When we don't understand that when they said, I'm okay, that they really weren't okay, that bothers them. When they told us we don't want anything for Valentine's Day, but they really wanted something and we didn't get that, that bothers them, because it's like, why aren't we looking deeper? Why aren't we learning them and being more in tune with them? Because that's how they are with us. And so again, it's a disconnect of we operate very differently, but if they would just understand, we're very simple. And the man who wants to be with you, who wants to love you, is being very plain and clear. If you would just honor and accept that, it would make things so much easier.
And if a man knew X about a woman, they would have a happy life.
What's the right word? It really goes back to understand that her emotions, I'm trying to find the right way to phrase this, but it's really understanding the emotional side of the woman. And what I mean by that is, again, if you're with a woman, let's say you guys are walking down the street, and she says, I don't feel safe right now, all right? To a man, we may analyze the area and say, well, there's nothing of danger here. What's your problem? You're crazy. No, don't do that. If she says, I don't feel safe, you have to understand how she feels. That's her emotion right now. And her emotion is reality to her. She may not be able to explain it. It may be something within her spirit. But as men, we make a mistake of dismissing it because it doesn't line up with our logic. And now it's, you're crazy, you're this, you're that, rather than no. Try to understand she's feeling like this for a reason. And even if we can't always explain it, honor it. Now, the man's concern is, well, now she can manipulate you and play you, because even when it doesn't make any sense, she can say, I feel this way. But if you're with a good woman and she's been good to you in every other way, why question that she's playing games now? Give her the benefit of the doubt. So I think if we would just learn to embrace what her emotions are at the moment, we would be able to have more peace. Because again, a lot of fights come from you're trying to force your logic onto her. She's trying to tell you how she feels right now.
Right.
And it's like this. No, meet her where she's feeling right now. Acknowledge that. Say, okay, you know what? I understand it. Let's handle it from that perspective.
Why is it so hard for let's talk about men in this situation, to acknowledge someone's feelings when in the man's mind, you might be acting crazy. These feelings are irrational. Why would I acknowledge irrational feelings when there's nothing to be afraid of in this moment? If that's what a man is feeling, how do they get out of that space and say, okay, this is irrational. In my mind, maybe this does seem crazy because I don't feel this personally. How does a man learn to connect on that level so that they feel safe in that moment, even if it is irrational?
So 3 things. It's going to be awareness. Why did I just lose my train of thought for the second one?
Awareness, yep.
Awareness, I'm missing the second one. And then communication at times when things are not chaotic. All right. So the problem is you can't be trying to have this full deep discussion at this. If you feel like she's being irrational, if you feel like this is not making any sense, now you're trying to have this deeper discussion that maybe she's not ready to have at the moment. All right. She's feeling all over the place. Who knows what's triggering her right now? Wait till things are calm. And now let's revisit what happened the other day.
Don't fix it when it's chaotic.
Exactly. It's almost like, sometimes a woman doesn't want you to fix it. She wants you to listen and acknowledge how she feels. And so we can revisit it at a different time, but in that time, she needs you to embrace where she's at emotionally.
What if the man's just like, it doesn't make sense? You're making no sense right now. What you're saying is irrational. Maybe it's illogical. It's crazy. None of it makes sense. How do they wrap their heads around the madness of the emotion that is not real to them.
It really is it's about practice. So that was the second
Awareness,
thing.
practice.
Awareness, practice, communication. So the practicing of it is just simply understanding, listen, it doesn't always have to make sense. All right? What does it hurt you in that moment to just be more compassionate and considerate of how she's feeling, even if it doesn't line up with your logic right then? You know what I'm saying? And again, we can revisit this and use it as a moment to now learn more about each other. But right now is not the time.
So tomorrow, 3 days later, we can say, hey, listen, you know that time when we were walking down the street and you were afraid, nothing was around. Can we talk about that?
Exactly. Exactly. Gotcha. And now we can gain better understanding, because at that moment, it may be easier for her to articulate it. But in the moment of her emotions running all over the place, it's going to be hard for her to get it out clearly. Not because she's trying to be difficult. It's just she's feeling all over the place. It's just hard. It's like, think about a child, and I'm not trying to reduce women to children, but think about a child being in their frantic moment, something happening to them, and you're saying, tell me what's wrong. They can't tell you. It's hard for them to say it. But once they're calmed down and at a better place, they can.
Absolutely.
So we got to be patient as well. We got to be patient with each other and give grace. We're going to have moments where, it may not make sense. But again, overall, if you're with a good woman, why act like she's being difficult or evil right now?
Absolutely.
You know?
There's a lot of good women. Speaking of good women, there's a lot of good women out there that are friends of mine who are single. And they've been single for years. Okay. I'm thinking of a few of them specifically in my mind. So I'm going to speak to these women's archetype, because I think there's a lot of women like this out there. They've been single they've been dating, but they haven't been in a committed long-term relationship for a while. Good women. They make their own money, they're independent, they're kind, they're compassionate, they're loving, they've got their own vision, but they're struggling in finding the right guy who will commit. What do you think is missing from those women? Or is this a timing thing? Maybe it's like, hey, you've been trying this for 8-10 years and you haven't found someone. Maybe it's still timing. Maybe they haven't showed up in your life yet. But if they're going on dates, they're doing these things and they still haven't been able to find a partner that feels like a good match, the right match, what's missing from them? Or is nothing missing?
It's hard to say, because, without knowing them individually, the issues can vary. I'll tell you what I've seen as common barriers for women. One of the most common, and they may not like hearing this, but one of the most common is a lacking of being in touch with their feminine side. And that only really plays a huge role dependent on the type of man they desire. If they desire a very masculine man who has his stuff together, a guy who can be a leader, at least has those qualities, then not being in your feminine is going to work against you. You're going to come across more difficult. You're not going to come across as someone that's peaceful. And again, I think every man who has stuff going on for himself can say what he needs almost most importantly, or at least near the top, is peace. Every man needs peace.
Oh man, I've been saying that my whole life. Peace.
And so if he does not view you in that way, because again, you project more masculine energy, you project more resistance, more of a difficult nature, he's not gonna, you could be the most beautiful, amazing woman. It's like, and he may want to sleep with you, but he's not gonna want to take you serious or marry you. So that can be one problem. Another thing can be timing. It's a lot of times is, we have to understand everything doesn't happen tomorrow. There is a process to this. But in that timing, what's important is that you don't drag on with the wrong men.
Yes.
A lot of women reduce their time or reduce their window of opportunity staying with the wrong guys, dating even the wrong guys. So it doesn't have to be a committed relationship. It could just be you're dating and getting to know each other, but you knew after a couple days that he wasn't it. And yet you're still letting it continue. And even though you're not fully committed in this relationship as an official boyfriend, girlfriend, you're emotionally invested. And your ability to now be available to someone else is severely hindered. So you're not going to be able to meet that great guy, or that great guy may come across you, hear that you're dating this guy and say, I'm not even going to bother with that.
Yeah.
And so that hurts you. So timing is it, but you have to make sure you're leaving yourself available.
Here's a question. Do we stay in relationships longer when we haven't fully healed the past?
Hell yes. Absolutely.
I'll probably raise my hand here for pretty much every past relationship where I have known at different levels, like something's not right, something's off. Okay, let's work on it. Let's try to make it work. Still things are off. It's like you have a knowing inside, and sometimes you try to force it to make it work. And I'm as one to blame as anyone here. And what I realized is like, oh, I haven't fully healed certain things. And it's why I've stayed in the past in relationships much longer than I probably should have. Mm-hmm. But I was afraid. I was afraid of hurting someone. I was afraid of hurting myself. I was afraid of whatever.
Yeah.
And when I started to learn that, like, this is something you talked about over and over, that the healing process is the key process to build a foundation for the potential for a great relationship, for something to flourish.
Yes.
You want to have, the dream is to have a rainforest of an environment in your relationship where things can grow, things can flourish. There's green trees around you. There's waterfalls, not an environment of a desert where things go to die in the relationship.
Yes.
And I don't think we can truly allow things to grow if we don't learn to heal. And that's something that you taught me years ago, and you teach so many people around the world this. But if people don't even think they need to heal something, how do they do it?
They can't. There's no way. You can't overcome an obstacle you don't believe exists.
Right.
Like,
I'm fine, I got this. Nah, I've dealt with this stuff in the past. Like, that was me.
Exactly. And so the problem is most people don't heal until they hit a wall, until something, knocks them on their behind, and now they have to see things differently and accept the issues that they've been holding on to. But also, I think the problem for a lot of individuals is they're not healed and they're in environments with people who haven't healed either. And now those unhealed people are going to validate your issues. They're going to validate your unwillingness to face those things.
This is so hard because, whatever, guy friends, girlfriends, whoever you are, and you lean on people and say, this person did this, and they validate you and say, leave them. They're no good for you. You deserve better. You don't deserve that. They shouldn't be doing this, right? They start to validate to be on your side, but they're not healed either if they're coming from that place. Maybe they're correct on certain things, but it's learning how to communicate to your friends in a healthier way probably also.
Well, but I think, yes, because a lot of people, they tell their friends the bad and they don't always tell them the good.
Yeah.
So the friends have a very skewed perception of the relationship or whatever situation that you're facing. But we also have to be aware enough to understand who we're seeking guidance from. Like, I may speak to my friends because I need to vent at the moment or I want some feedback, but I'm fully aware that they are not the end-all be-all to this, that they may be speaking from their own hurt place. I still can filter their perspective through the understanding of they're not healed enough to give me full, proper, great guidance, all right? But they might give a perspective that I needed to look at. And that's why I will still talk to them, because I want to hear different perspectives. I want to make sure I'm not missing any blind spots here, all right? So it's good to talk to different people, but only if you understand how to not just take them as, oh, well, my friend said this, so this is it. No, your friend may be broken too, and they're going to lead you down an even more broken path.
Exactly. So the conversations you have with some people, they're not healed and they're not helping you fully because they're validating something that you don't need to hear necessarily.
Absolutely.
Maybe some of it is right, but not all of it.
And not to mention, it can happen in other ways as far as, like, I've seen people where the friend was in a toxic relationship that they were unwilling to leave. So now when their other friend came to them about their toxic relationship, is, give them a chance. Cheating happens in every relationship. They'll come up with all these validations to stay because they can't look themselves in the mirror and tell themselves to walk away. So how are they going to tell you to do it?
So
all right?
Hard.
Now, some people can do that. Some people can still tell you opposite of what they're going to actually are willing to do. But a lot of people, unconsciously or subconsciously, are trying to validate how they would handle things or how they have handled things, all right? So if it's I would leave because someone called me out there out my name one time, then I have to tell you that you got to leave for that reason.
Right.
I can't tell you to be considerate of, well, maybe it was a mistake, maybe this can be fixed. Oh, no, because I drew that line, you need to draw that line. A lot of people don't understand how to give that unbiased advice. So that's why you have to be very careful.
Absolutely.
Going to friends and family.
Healing is, again, a lot of clarity comes through healing. You'll be able to see things differently in a relationship if you are from a healed place. I think a lot of us, myself included, have stayed in relationships longer than necessary because we haven't healed something yet, and that's why we stayed in them. So would you say that people who have healed and addressed the past, the traumas of the past, the pains of the past, are much quicker to get out of a dating situation when they realize, oh, this isn't for me. Like, I thought it was going to work out, but I don't need to keep trying for months and years to try to make it work. It's not working. I'm willing to walk away. Would you say people healed are able to do that better?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Basically, the more healed you become, or when you have become healed, your willingness or ability to tolerate toxic energy is diminished. You don't know how to operate or how to stay in those environments any longer because now you see things so much clearer. It's almost like if you were to detox your body and start to eat healthy. Now you go back to eating some fast food and it will destroy your stomach.
Yeah.
So your willingness to eat that bad food is no longer there, or at least it's diminished because now your body knows what healthy feels like.
Ooh.
All right? So emotionally, once you get to a healthy place and you know what healthy is, you can't tolerate dysfunction as much anymore. You can't tolerate someone who does not want to face their issues. You know, it reminds me right now real quick of even when it comes to business. Or you know what, even when it comes to fitness, a lot of people, once they've achieved great success or once they've achieved getting that body they always wanted, they look at those who do not have differently. Before, they may have been in that pool of people that said, my circumstances, there's nothing I can do, it's too hard. But once you've achieved it and you knew what work it took to get there, now it's like, no, you're just unwilling. You don't have enough desire to push past the obstacles to get the results you're looking for. And so again, when you become healthy, your willingness to tolerate this person just can't get past their issues. It's like, no, because I got past mine.
Right.
I know what it takes. I know you can get there if you're willing. But so many are not willing.
Let's say you got in a relationship, you got married, you've been committed for a while, and neither of you have healed. But then one of you decides, you know what, this isn't working. I gotta heal the pain from the past. They go on that journey, they get relief, they find peace in their heart, they're not triggered, whatever it is. They've started and have continually been on the healing process. But the other person continues to be in their own traumatic past experiences. What if they're not willing to heal? Would you recommend, is that relationship able to work still? Are you able to find ways to say, well, we still love each other and we have a lot of chemistry and connection most of the time? What would you say about that? If the other person's unwilling to heal?
I hate to say this, but I have to be honest.
Yeah.
All right? I can never encourage someone to remain in a toxic situation. All right? I do think that we can take an approach that says, let's see if we can work this out. Let's give them a little bit of grace here. And the main thing is, can we achieve progress? All right. Rome isn't built in a day. And if we've been behaving or we've been tolerating this dysfunction for so many years, we can't expect it to be perfect tomorrow. But are you willing to at least start to walk on that path and make progress? Though I don't want to encourage divorce, I cannot feel comfortable telling people to stay trapped in a marriage with someone who doesn't want to face their issues.
Right.
If you have freed yourself from that, you have healed, they've got to be willing to make a move. And here's the problem. People are afraid to heal, or people are afraid to face the issues that requires them to heal. All right. Because you have to, it's like, I remember a quote, and I'm probably saying it wrong. To heal, you have to face the pain, or you have to dive into the pain, something like that. All right. So people understand it's painful to go and revisit your past. It's painful to let those emotions you've suppressed all these years come back out. And so now your fear of healing or facing the process of healing is greater than your fear of losing this person. All right. And they think because you're married to them, you're not going anywhere.
You're stuck for life.
Exactly. So for that reason, that's not enough incentive to face their fear of facing their issues.
Wow.
The only thing that may get them to do it is the threat of divorce.
Wow.
Or is the actual divorce happening? Again, it's not that I want it to get to that point. I hope and pray everyone can avoid that. But the reality is some people won't get it together until there's a real consequence on the table. And that will be divorce in that situation.
So, okay. Let's say someone's like, you know what? I feel like I'm good. It's never been about me. It's been about everyone else. It's their problems that why the relationship doesn't work out.
Hold on, I gotta stop you real quick.
Yes.
Because this is like hitting my spirit. I gotta say
Give it to me.
The other thing to consider is that some people will never change. They will never heal. And the reality is that the person you're with is the wrong person. And the only reason you got with them is because you were broken. Had you not been damaged in the first place,
Zing.
You may not be with this individual.
Because you wouldn't have chose someone like this if you were coming from a healed place.
Exactly. And if you were healed, you would have been your true self. Your true self may not have aligned with this individual. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't circumstances where people still end up with the right person when they were both not healed. I do think that's possible to happen. But a lot of people, I would argue the majority, because I always say if you're not healed, you are 99% likely to choose the wrong person. So I do still strongly believe that the majority of people are with the wrong individual. And that's marriage, relationship, whatever. Because that brokenness, that damage
attracted something else that was broken.
And allowed you to tolerate it. Or it allowed you to feel safer in that environment. Wow. Here's the thing that people don't realize. When you have not healed, if you were to get with a healthy person, it would essentially demand of you from the jump to basically heal or step your game up. And again, people are afraid to face their issues. So to get with another broken person, subconsciously, it validates me staying broken. It validates me not having to face my issues because now we all have issues. You see, as long as we all have issues, I don't have to face mine. But if you have corrected yours, how can I validate my own?
Wow. What's your issues?
My issues?
The coach always has an issue somewhere. What's your biggest fear or insecurities around being in a relationship or finding the right person or dating or?
So, okay, I'll say fear. And I'm being very transparent. I've never said this anywhere else. All right?
I know you haven't. Your biggest fear?
My biggest fear has been, can I remain focused and fulfilled in the relationship long-term past a certain time? Meaning, okay, I have no doubts 5 years in, 10 years in, I'm still good. But when it hits year 15, this is different. And again, it's because of, one, I think a lot of people, the issue that we have is specifically even with monogamy. Not saying that I'm going to be going out there cheating, but I always say the issue with monogamy is that people struggle to maintain monogamy. Mm-hmm. And we struggle to maintain monogamy because we don't maintain who we fell in love with. All right?
What do you mean by that?
Meaning that person that I brought you and you brought to me that made us feel like this is it.
It's different.
It's different now. The thing is, though, it can be maintained if it's the true you. Problem is a lot of people aren't being their true self from the jump. Right. So that creates a difference right there. Also, is there a willingness to grow together? Mm-hmm. And that needs communication. That means connection has to be there. A lot of people have not gotten with that person they have a connection with. So this is where, for me, there's fear, but there's peace in knowing that I do believe if I'm willing to do my part to maintain who she falls in love with, all right? Whoever that woman is, when that day happens, I'm willing to do that. And that goes spiritually, mentally, physically. I have no problem sticking to the recipe that worked. And I'm confident in one end because I say, you know what? I believe in connection. And I believe that that's the missing ingredient. When I look at these relationships that have failed and haven't made it past that 10-year, 15-year mark, I do think that the reason is connection was not there in most cases.
So chemistry was there.
Chemistry may have been there at one point.
First. Compatibility?
Yes. Compatibility based on what they were presenting at one point may have been there. But again, was it true compatibility if they weren't being their true self? and if they had not found their true self yet. But connection was not there. And I think a lot of people get with each other based off the hype. And that's the reason why I'm such a stickler on, okay, I have to make sure I wait for connection, because I want to make it past those 15 years. I want to make it for the long haul. I want to be a representation of what I speak about. I want people to look at my relationship and say, I don't want it to be that fake relationship that people think is good, but it's actually horrible behind closed. No, I want us to be amazing to everyone and inspire them. So I have to wait for connection, and me being a man of God, I have to wait for that spiritual guidance that says this is the one, that I can pray about this and God tells me she's it. Because, you know, there's a lot of beautiful, amazing women out there, but everyone's not for us.
Right.
And so I think it's important to understand who aligns with you, especially as a man when you're walking in your purpose. And that's why it's so important for men to find their purpose, because if you don't know where you're headed in life, you don't know who belongs on that path with you. So you've got to make sure that you know yourself, you know the direction you're walking in, and now you can see what woman can align with you, and you guys can walk together as a unit and make it something amazing. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there. A man who's serious about you is going to be a man who strives to be consistent in his actions. Not just strives, he just will be there. And if for some reason you don't feel like he deserves your respect, then I